How's it going, guys? So it's been a rough few days for Arrowhead and the community. When the news dropped about the enforcement of a PSN account, the PC players stopped playing, stood up and said absolutely not. The dust hasn't settled, unfortunately, but loads has happened since then, with Arrowhead scrambling to put out the huge flames from Sony's insistence that everyone should have a PSN account. And honestly, it is getting worse. But before we start, if you enjoyed the video, please press the like button. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe. So after covering the news on Friday, Arrowhead have been very active and the community managers were firefighting. Spitz didn't have the best of days on Friday responding to the community, but things have calmed down a little bit. So after taking a step back, Spitz has been talking to the community over on Discord again with these posts here. Yeah, I was completely unaware how many countries didn't have the ability to make a PSN account when I made that statement. I deeply regret implying that it was so easy for everyone to just sign up and not have to worry about it. It's absolutely not our intention to force people to break Sony's terms of service or just not play the game if they're in a restricted region. There needs to be a better solution. Then he goes on to make a few other posts saying players making their displeasure known through reviews, refunds, etc. Give us more pull in the discussions with Sony. They don't read our Discord. It hurts to see the game's popularity suffer in ratings, but discussions are ongoing and our team is on the side of the players in this fight. It's unrealistic to expect people to make PSN accounts in different regions to get past the account linking requirement. We are aware of that. Discussions are ongoing. And he follows that up with, if a better solution isn't provided for players who are in regions without PSN coverage, I'm assured that we won't be making the requirement mandatory for those players. We're not going to force people to either break Sony TOS or not play the game. And he finishes off with, internal discussions are ongoing about the mandatory linking change, and while I can't reveal details, the response from our dev teams has been pretty universally negative and we're looking for better options. So yeah, as we can see, Splits has been very vocal and is encouraging players to leave negative reviews, which is absolutely fine as this could affect things, but ultimately players putting down the game will have the biggest effect in my opinion. Spitz also mentions that they will not make it mandatory for players to break Sony's terms of service or stop playing because players live in the countries that can't get a PSN account, and this is the absolutely correct move. You just can't openly sell a game to these guys, then tell them they can't play because a PSN account isn't available in their region. And it's good they're feeling negative about this and are having discussions about this forced change, because if players did stop playing, they would lose so many players along with a crap ton of revenue, and Arrowhead definitely don't want that. That would potentially put jobs at risk. And Misty, who is also community support for Arrowhead, was over on Twitter discussing some things about why this is happening. She starts off with, hey, this isn't true. Due to the overwhelming amount of people trying to link their accounts, the whole login process broke and people couldn't get into the game. Mandatory account linking was disabled 20-30 minutes after launch to let people play the game. Someone responds, and yet people still couldn't get in. It's a process to force people into an ecosystem when they don't want to because Sony think it will make people pay for their products. And she then responds with, no, it's to allow us to ban people. This is the sole reason. So someone then bites back with, so you couldn't ban people before? That's a lie. We could, but this increases the effectiveness of what we can do. But maybe it would make it easier for them to ban people, but I don't buy that really. I am still going down the lines of Sony just want the data. The game blew up astronomically. They realised we have got hundreds of thousands of people here that don't have PSN accounts, so they can now get us to sign up, get our data, and then make loads of money out of it, because that's what big corporations do. They sell our data, but Sony aren't the only ones. But Misty has since gone on to delete her account. I'm not sure if this was over abuse or she just needed to take a step back. Honestly though, I'm just going to say this. I don't think the community managers have done themselves any favours, apart from Twinbeard. And in my opinion, when a game kicks off like HellDivers 2, you should look to get a PR firm in to get help and get training. So as we can see, the negative reviews have reached nearly 180,000, and the spike of negative reviews is bigger than the spike of positive reviews, which is crazy. But Arrowhead have been actively saying to do this. But a few hours ago, the game was made unavailable to purchase on Steam in all the countries that can't create a PSN login. Whether this is Steam protecting themselves or Sony making this choice has not been clarified yet, but my bet goes on Sony. It is a sign that they will not back down and potentially tank a great game in HellDivers 2. So as we can see from the screenshots here, which are taken from SteamDB, which are a great source for all things Steam, we have a ton of countries including Gibraltar, Jersey, Egypt, the Virgin Islands, along with the regions of Africa and Asia, and that is potentially a crap ton of players. I'm sure Arrowhead would like to split from Sony now, just like Bungie did when they bought themselves out from Activision. I'm not saying that went smoothly, but at least Bungie bought themselves out from that relationship that they didn't like. But it's just one big mess. In my opinion, if you don't force a sign up at the start of a game, you don't implement it a few months after, and I don't care if there were some technical or server issues, serious stuff like this should be sorted before a game drops. There are also some posts now popping up as well with players showing proof of refunds from Steam, and as we can see by these screen grabs, it's happening. I'm assuming some are using their country's own laws to get around this, and that's absolutely fine. If players do use their country's laws for this, then Sony might have no choice but to act and hopefully reverse this change. And these players have a lot more than 2 hours playtime. So maybe Steam do actually think this is a bit shady, and this could be because Sony has been caught. This post by Pirate Software shows Sony changing some wording. So the first image reads, do I have to sign into PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? The answer, signing into PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC. And the next image is the same question, but a different answer. Some PlayStation games may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN. Now just for context, the first image is from the 3rd of May and the second is the 4th of May. So once again, a company changes their wording to try and cover this up, but the internet always remembers. I also want to add that Arrowhead are not totally blameless in this. They knew this was happening all along and struck the deal with Sony along with implementing the skip button in a game on the PSN link page, so they are not totally blameless. They are unfortunately learning that gamers do have limits, and if you try to push those limits, you will get a huge amount of pushback no matter how great you've been or how good your game is. A few resolutions have been floating around though, and that's the disabling of crossplay so the two platforms, PS5 and PC, are separate, or throwing in some skins or some in-game incentives to create or link an account. And if they did that, we all know we'd go run into that PSN account page straight away. Do I think all this chaos will force Sony into a U-turn? No, I don't. I just can't see Sony backing down personally. They have always had anti-consumer issues, and if the game lost revenue, Sony wouldn't be affected. They've already made their money back, and in the worst case scenario, could they pull the game from Steam? Maybe, but that might have legal implications. I do hope Arrowhead and Sony have some serious discussions about stopping this, as refunds will ramp up and player numbers along with revenue will be down. I just don't get the world of gaming, honestly guys. Companies have a good thing with a game that is received extremely well, makes a lot of money and exceeds expectations on a massive scale, and they just ruin it all in a day. Sony wants to make their mark in the live service scene, but unless you rely on your console alone, players on other platforms just won't put up with your corporate greed so you can get some extra dough from data. But we all have a choice, keep playing or get a refund and vote with our wallets. Neither is wrong, so as a community we should just stay respectful to each other and the community managers over at Arrowhead. But that is it for this video guys. If you are still here, thank you so much. If you have enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button as well. But as always, take care and I'll see you in the next video, divers.